What we're gonna be doing today is replaying the bill between me and Polite. I'm not gonna interrupt. I want everybody to if you missed it, then you're gonna be able to see it here. Sonetta uploaded it on his show, but he didn't add the visuals to it. So I'm gonna be giving you guys the visuals and the audio, and so let's check it out, and then we'll all weigh in on it as well when we're done. We won't interrupt because I want y'all to see for y'allself how the whole bill went, beginning to end, just the Polite call. So I'm gonna start that now.
I'm chilling, man. It's great.
You got a question for Black Jesus Minister or Brother Sanchez?
Peace to both of them. They did a great job. Peace to both those brothers. I got some questions.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious because I want to learn more about the perspective of Brother Sanchez. So I'm not trying to antagonize him at all. One of the questions I had is, are the other planets flat, or are any other planets flat, or is it just Earth within this solar system?
Okay, that's a good question. And Sonetta, you know what? Since it's Brother Polite, you know what I'm saying? He can, do whatever he want. I'm just want to give him a clear understanding of this thing. Rob is a troll, but I want to go back to the screen share real quick. Yeah, Rob was a troll, man. This brother here, a guru in this thing. I'm pulling up a screen share, Polite. So
okay,
here we go right now. And yeah, I'm gonna take my time here. This is a good question. I get it all the time. Present screen. And just a rough draft model real quick. Right here, we'll use this little rough model. So a plane, right? A plane is a plane. It's a plane, a flat land, and it's a closed and a net. So when we say plane net, the original etymology behind that is what we're seeing right here on my screen. So when you say are the others planets flat, when we look up in the sky, what we're looking at is something called the luminaries. And what we're saying, like Venus and Mars, those are like the sun and moon of a whole nother terrarium, or according to the Egyptian, netter. So I'm gonna land my plane with here so y'all can see, because I got several models and I see now I'm gonna have to go deep, right? A little bit, just tad. Here's what I'm saying. Our Earth is a ripple effect. And the source of this ripple effect started in the center where all our compasses point. Now, if we look at this model, our Earth is in the middle. And surrounding our Earth, you got suns and moons on other planes around ours going all the way out to who knows how far this go out, right? But what I'm saying, when we look in the sky, we're seeing like Venus and Mars. That's the sun and moon to the next plane. But these are plane nets. Plane nets is a plane enclosed in a net. It's plane net. But you're looking up in the sky trying to show like what we're walking on. And that'll be like me thinking that the Earth was a cotton ball because I'm looking at the clouds, with all due respect. So that wouldn't be a good way to go about it. But this is the whole reason why we call them planets in the first place, because they're planes enclosed in nets, or gabs enclosed in nuts, according to the Kemetic people.
Oh, okay. And if you don't mind, how does a lunar eclipse work? If the Earth isn't flat, are we misinterpreting what a lunar eclipse is?
No, we're not misinterpreting what a lunar eclipse is. We're being indoctrinated, told is one thing when it's something else. We didn't have an interpretation to begin with. We just was born in this world and was given one thing. Now, what I tell you is this. I have documentaries on a lunar eclipse, the Vedics, which is the oldest astrological system on Earth, which is what we still using now, right? They talked about these two bodies in the sky called Rahu and Ketu. Let me show you some. Good questions, Polite. If you pull up a lunar eclipse, we know shadows ain't red. Now, people will say, well, that's the sunlight. Well, it can't, if it's the sunlight and a shadow, one would have to give out, because wherever light is, the shadow disappears. So if we're saying that this lunar eclipse is the sunlight, somebody got to explain to me how a shadow, excuse me, if this is the shadow of the earth, right? Then you got to explain to me where we can find red shadows at and why it's fading to black, because the Vedic said there are translucent celestial objects in the heavens that sometimes transit the moon and all this stuff. And these are like gradient lenses. So when we cross over the moon right here, for example, what I'm showing, if you showing my screen share right now, Sanada?
All right. Yes.
Yeah, shadows ain't red. So if you look at, it's so many different kind of eclipses. I'm showing you one now. This is not the nature of a shadow. Never saw a red shadow. So like I said, there are objects in the heavens, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm not an expert at the heavens. That'll be egotistical to say I'm an expert at the heavens. We're in an advanced mechanism called Earth. And what I'm telling you is what the Vedics was saying was that there are objects in the heavens, gradient luminaries, that transit the moon or sun like we see here, because we know a shadow ain't red. If you think of the MasterCard symbol, it'll show you that these are two light objects that are merging or traversing each other, and like what we see here, for example. But just to answer you, the questions you asking are very advanced questions, what we teach about all the time. I'm trying to rush and give you a quick run through, but these are good questions. Hopefully we can get more of these.
All right. Brother Polite, you still there?
Yeah, my goal is to debate. I actually was just curious about the information, and I know that this is Black Jesus and Sanchez discussion, so I didn't want to undermine the conversation.
Right.
I just asked one more question, but I'm more on the I'm more curious than I am an antagonist. Because before I can antagonize, I have to first learn. So I'm just curious, you know what I'm saying? Because I never really gave it too much attention, but I know he's one of the people that's like highly revered in terms of the argument. So I'm honored to be able to ask him, as he's one of the, I would say, pioneers in the movement in the Black community of it is, as far as I believe, to the Flat Earth. So I'm just curious, and so because I'm one to been brought up that the Earth is round. So my understanding of that, I would suppose gravity would have to be an illusion as well, correct? Like you couldn't believe gravity exists if the Earth is flat, correct? Or can you believe in gravity?
Well, it ain't that I think gravity is an illusion. I think it's just what they call it, a theory. It's an explanation for a natural phenomena. And in the case of gravity, the phenomena would be why things fall. Where gravity falls apart is it don't explain how things float. It shows how a rock falls down. Isaac Newton said he discovered it with an apple falling on him and stuff. But somebody should have asked him to find a theory for why the bubble float up, why gravity ain't pulling that bubble down. But what they'll tell you is gravity is selective, basically. It knows to pull on light things less and strong things the most. But what's really going on, I don't really need the theory of gravity, right, to explain what's happening with a flat Earth, right? In the case of a flat Earth, we have the universal law of density. That ain't a theory, that's a law. And density says that if something is heavier than the medium it's in, it'll sink. And if it's lighter than the medium it's in, it'll float. In the case of the ping pong, someone's background is killing my ears. Hold on. But it's cool. But I'm gonna just land here. Yeah. So density is a universal law that explains things, why things go up and why they go down. Gravity is a theory made by a Johnny come lately named Newton, who just is tried to explain a natural phenomena theoretically when we already had a universal law that did that perfectly. Density.
So I know in class we learned that D equals M over V, or density equals mass over volume. So how would that make sense in retrospect to gravity being a theory as opposed to an actuality. Because there's density, there's mass, there's volume. So things, objects take certain precedence based on volume, based on its mass, in retrospect to density. So we come to terms, if we don't believe density, nor mass, nor volume is a construct or a rumored aspect of science, how might we feel like that exclusively about gravity if we don't feel like that about density, mass, volume? Unless we also hold density, meaning mass, over volume, in speculation as well. Are we also saying that this is speculative accounts as well, density, mass, and volume?
What we're saying is that mathematical language, like what we call equations, is just a mathematical way to say the same theory that was presented. So if I say that, for example, if I'm an astrophysicist and I say, well, there's a diamond planet in universe such and such, and here's my equation to support it. My equation don't make the diamond planet a fact. My equation is just a mathematical language to support my theory, not my fact. So what I just explained with density don't require a mathematical language because it's so simple, even a child can understand it. That's why I'm showing and proving, because the scientific method is about observation. You can, it's scientists right now that has an equation for some of the most abominable things. Why? Because in a mathematical equation is just a mathematical way of supporting a theory, and numbers can lie. The equation, you can make an equation to support how a man is born a woman. Science is saying that today. They saying that that's natural, that you ain't rich. So we can debate science all the time, even though they might have the equations for said thing. That's what I'm telling you. Everything I just said about density in the cup with the ping pong ball still holds true. The law of density stands firm and true, whether I have a mathematical equation for it or not. See what I'm saying? There's a person in the jungle right now benefiting off this law of density who don't explain it with mathematical equations. They may have some tribal way to explain it, but that, I hope I'm answering you to satisfaction, or you can.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think there's a misconception a lot of times when we use the word theory, is there's a distinction to be made amongst theory and then scientific theory. So the theory I believe you're talking about is the general sense of the meaning, and that's when, we're not sure. There's implications, there's intimations we would like to believe, things kind of suggest or allude to, and that's just the general theory. But then scientific theory is actually something that's actually tried and proven over and over, and yet to be proven wrong. And that's scientific theory. So scientific theory gets tried and proven over and over and over and over and over and over, and they use the proper means of observation. They use their accepted protocols, and they still are able to definitively conclude that this is what it is. And we might find a more efficient means later on. But the other theory is the one that's more like a hypothesis or educated guess. So I think that's where this gets a little convoluted, because I'm more focusing on, if we are going to talk about theory, I'm more lean on the scientific theory that's going through the protocols for observation. So that way we're not led astray.
Now watch this. Let me share my screen one more time, Sonetta. Share my screen one more time.
Screen sharing.
Okay, he's right. The scientific theory is proven over and over again. Look, watch, like this. Like I said, Isaac Newton had an apple drop on his shoulder, guys. Let me show you something about the scientific theory. Every time you drop something, it's going to fall. For example, if you want to prove gravity right now, right? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is a high-paid scientist, right? He's proving gravity to the flat earthers here. Like, look, flat earthers. And right, that's science, that's scientific theory, right? Because gravity is explaining why the mic is dropping. But ask Neil deGrasse Tyson why the helium balloon is rising. My point was this right here. It ain't that the theory of gravity is right. It's that the law of density can't never fail. That the microphone is heavier than the air around it. Like I said, right? In the law of density, if you need a medium first. In our case, we're inside of an air terrarium. And when we drop things in this thing, if it's not lighter than the air, they float up like helium and stuff like that, like a feather might would do. But it is eventually. So my thing is, heavy things is going to always sink if they heavier than the medium they're in. A rock, you drop a rock in the water, it'll sink, but a bubble will float up because the air is lighter than the water that it's in. So this is the law of density never failing. Some people can say, well, that pebble fell because the earth pulled it to the ground with gravity. The earth is pulling everything toward the core. Well, why is the earth letting the helium balloon get away? Gravity has holes in it. That's why it's a theory. So whether you call it a scientific theory or scientific whatever, putting scientific in front of something don't make it right, right? It's just because you say it's a scientific theory don't make it a natural fact. I'm looking for natural facts. It is a natural fact that if I drop this mic, it'll fall to the ground, but that don't prove gravity. That proves density.
No doubt. I want to not to one more and I'm done. Not to digress, but just to address somebody in the chat who says basically if it's proven, then it's not a theory. So what I'm talking about is us not understanding the words that we use, and words are GPS to reality. So not to digress, but just to give an example, we learned the word minority, and minority to most of us alludes to percentage. But then you go into a Black's Laws dictionary, you learn minority is an adult that thinks in an adolescent state of mind and needs a third party or some kind of arbitrary means or force to intervene to do things on their behalf because they think in an adolescent state of mind. So sometimes you could think you know what a word means, but there's many facets to that word, or there's a different genre to that word that happens. So the word theory, as most of you guys know it, you know it alludes to something that's not definitive. It alludes to just speculation and the unknown. But when you talk about scientific theory, the word takes on a different connotation. You can't let the word theory throw you off because now we're prefixing scientific theory to it. And then you got to go into the etymology of the word theory, which simply means to observe or to speculate. So based on speculation, we are now being impelled to conduct the scientific method. And when the scientific method is employed, then we're able to accumulate enough results so we're not just dealing with belief, so we can definitively conclude that this thing checks out. So don't let the word throw you off, because the problem is you're not aware of the many facets or different genres and how a word can be used and change or evolve in meaning based on the genre that you're studying. So that's just for the person that's in the chat that just says, well, if it's a theory, then, if everything's proven, there's not a theory no more. Duh. It doesn't work that simple. You got to understand the language that you're speaking. You got to understand what we're speaking about. So my last question would be to you. I'm still focusing on the density, because as we we learned D equals M over V, or density equals mass over volume, and the theories as it revolves around gravity, and you say gravity has holes in it. How would you explain, and this is my last question, and I appreciate you answering these questions as thorough as you can, considering the time you have. How would you explain, do you feel that there's falsehood in respect to the moon having an impact on Earth's waters? Is that gravity, or is that something else taking place? Is the moon not having an impact on Earth's waters? Does this have anything to do with gravity whatsoever? Or that's yet another misconception?
Okay, got you. I want to go back and say this first of all, right? A scientific theory is an explanation, y'all. I'm highlighting the word right now. A scientific theory, guess what? Any one of y'all can come up with an explanation for something. That don't make your explanation a fact. It just means you explaining. We call it nigga explaining, right? Now, here's what the scientific fact is, though. Scientific
Hey,
fact.
Sanchez.
Hold on one thing.
Okay.
Scientific fact is an undeniable true statement accepted by the scientific community, right? It can be proven through correct observations, testing, blase, blase. Now, a scientific theory, an explanation of an aspect of the natural world, which is why I showed Neil deGrasse Tyson dropping the mic. His explanation to why the mic was dropping, which is a natural phenomenon. We see stuff drop in the natural world. His explanation was gravity. But like I said, your explanation is a theory. It's explaining, you explaining don't make something a fact. So that's why we got to look up the scientific fact versus the scientific theory and go to methodology versus dudes explaining stuff that happens in the natural world. There's a big difference. If you want to talk about what if the moon is causing the ocean tides, this right here finna be a big mind blower for you, my brother Polite. When you're at the beach, right? You telling me that the moon is so powerful, it's pulling on all this ocean water, but it ain't disturbing the water in they drinks. It ain't doing that to the drink in my cup at the beach. The moon ain't pulling on that. So you telling me that the dude with a swimming pool in his backyard, the moon just saying, I ain't fucking with his pool. I'm just gonna pick on the ocean. That's what the moon doing. So the moon controlling the ocean tides, but it ain't doing that to the water in my swimming pool, the water in my cup. Dang, the moon selective. I have an explanation of what's going on, and I'd like to share it with you right now. It makes a lot of sense on this flat earth model. Watch this. There's a pole in the middle of our earth, y'all. When all of the ocean water go into the middle of our universe, it runs into an electromagnetic pole. Let me show it to you real quick. Thank you, Sarnetta, for the share. This will be quick. When all of the ocean water flow to the center of the earth, this little pole that you see in the middle, it pushes the water back out. Then when the water get pushed out, it flows to the outer barrier right here that pushes it back into the middle. Now, if you go to the beach, right, watch what the water doing. My bad. I'm going to replay that. Thank you, Sarnetta, for the share. This will be quick. When all of the ocean water flow to the center of the earth, this little pole that you see in the middle, it pushes the water back out. Then when the water get pushed out, it flows to the outer barrier right here that pushes it back inward. Now, if you go to the beach, right, watch what the water doing. I'm going to pull up beach water right now. If you go to the beach and look at what the water doing, it's doing what I just said it's doing. All I'm saying is all of the ocean water is connected to these toroidal fields. All of the water that if you look at it right here, let's Hebrew Cosmos, let's pull it up real quick. This will be quick. All of the saltwater ocean waters, they ain't connected to this rock right here, which is foundated to the earth. That's why if you standing on land, your water ain't affected by the tides. If you got a swimming pool, because we live on this earth rock and it ain't moving. All of the water that's moving is around this earth rock right here. And that's what it's getting controlled, tossed back and forth by the toroidal field. And the water that's in your swimming pool and bathtub, it's on the rock right here that's foundated. So that the swimming pool the moon ain't affecting that. I'm showing you what's affecting it with proof, because if the moon pulling on all the ocean water, it can't just be selective. It got to pull on all the water. But I'm showing you what's going on, and it make perfect sense on this model, and that's why I don't mind getting laughed at and taking this truth to the grave. Any more questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to rectify a couple things real quick, respectfully, of course, my brother. Perhaps the reason why it appears the moon is not impacting us because we're mostly made up of water, or a pool, or maybe even a cup of water, is because, again, we may not truly understand what density means. I understand. Okay, what density means in retrospect to mass and volume. Okay, if we understand what volume is, then we will probably come to the conclusion that the volume or the mass that you are speaking of in terms of our ocean in retrospect to a cup contrasts so immensely that the impact would be so minuscule that you wouldn't be able to realize it. And therefore, the larger the mass, then we're able to bear witness to the impact that the moon is having on a larger body of water. But again, that would have to be within the confines of the laws that give us what we call gravity, what we call density, what we call mass, and what we call volume. Because when we understand that, we wouldn't expect a cup to be impacted by the moon, a cup of water, that is. If we understand density, mass, and volume.
You got a question?
Oh, okay, that's what it's coming down to. I'll stop talking then. I appreciate you, my brother.
Okay, so I answer his non-question and we'll move on.
No, it's all right. Because getting rude.
You're done.
Oh, and one other thing. One other thing, my brother. I mean, no harm or disrespect by communicating with you. One other thing. I wanted you to just simply complete the definition that you spoke of in terms of scientific theory, so people are not misled or get the wrong idea. Because initially you just said a scientific theory is an explanation.
He's asking you, what's the question? He got a sign up saying, "What is the question?"
I got you, but we have to complete something that he said, because he didn't complete it, and that's a bit misleading, because the scientific theory is more than just an explanation or an aspect of the natural world and the universe. It's okay. You know what? He purposely didn't read the rest of it, because I typed in the same words he used so I can do a reverse Google engineering, and I saw the rest of the meaning. He purposely didn't read the rest of the meaning.
He's saying, what's your question right now? Ask your last question.
I don't have no question, because he already started to cut me off when I was asking my question. So I'm done.
All right.
The question is lunacy to expect the water in a cup to be moved by the moon.
Okay, let's go to somebody with a question, man.
All right.
He's not.
All right, brother Polite. Thank you, brother.
But I do want to respond. I do want to respond to his non-question. Right.
Yeah.
Let me say this right here, Sonetta.
All right. Please, Polite.
Tell these guys to set it up. They know how to set it up. Check this out, right? It's lunacy to think that the moon is selective. See, I'm using observation. He using insults when he said lunacy. That's why my thing is this right here. If you don't think the moon should have, you said that the moon is affecting the water. So why is it selected? There's no forces of nature that's selective, Sonetta. If a tornado come through right now in Brooklyn, it ain't gonna say, well, I ain't gonna do nothing to the babies. I'm gonna just kill the grown-ups. It's gonna kill the babies too. If your house catch on fire, that fire ain't selective. Forces of nature are not selective. Fire don't say I'm gonna burn him, but I ain't gonna burn you though. But the moon saying, I'm gonna control all this damn ocean water, but leave them swimming pools alone, man. Leave them pools alone. What force of nature does that? What's lunacy about me using my mind and critical thinking to come to that conclusion, regardless of who laughs at me? I got a beautiful mind. You got one too. You better use it no matter who laugh at you. Next question.